Hi, and welcome to HungryGamers.com. Today we're going to be walking you through how to set up the parental controls on the PlayStation 3. Now, the PlayStation 3 has a little bit of a different system than we've compared on the Xbox 360, the Wii, and the Wii U. But we'll walk you through. Even though the system is similar, there are some notable differences you should take note of. The first thing you'll do when you turn on your PlayStation 3 is be prompted to create a new user, especially if you're taking it right out of the box. The first time you create a new user, if you're over the age of 18, you'll be creating a master account. If you're under the age of 18, you'll be creating a sub account. Well, what's the difference, you ask? Well, it's actually kind of important because based on your age, you'll be limited by how much you can do and see on the PlayStation Network and on the console itself. Now, by default, all users on the PlayStation 3 are master accounts. Master accounts are essentially able to do the following. You can be created by anybody as long as they are of legal age and have access to an email address. Now, the way they tell you are of legal age is you have to input your birth date, so you can fudge that if you really want to, but just bear that in mind. You can also modify parental controls, such as monthly spending limits or chat and video restrictions for sub-accounts. Well, what's a sub-account? A sub-account is an account that is created by anyone who has a master account. They are tied directly to the master account and are based on the date of birth of the sub-account user. So, for example, if you have created an account that is for someone who's 8 years old, that account will only ever be able to see content that is appropriate for 8 years old and younger. Now, that is based on several rating systems, mainly the ESRB, the MPAA for movies and videos, and the TV rating systems as well. Now, a couple of things to note with sub-accounts and master accounts. There are certain things they share, and there are certain things they don't. As you can see, we have a couple of user accounts here on the PS3 already. Now, there's also sections called photo, music, and video. It's important to note that any information or music or photos that are uploaded to the PS3's hard drive will be visible to all users. Now, what that means is if Dad uploads his entire Beatles collection, and little Johnny, who's 5, shouldn't be listening to the White Album for some reason, if the parent doesn't want them to do that, and they log in, they'll see it on their account as well. So bear that in mind. That goes for photos, music, and video. Another thing all users will share is games for the PlayStation 3, minis, PS2 titles, and PlayStation titles, and essentially any other game that's been saved to the hard drive. Also, any disk in the system will be able to be viewed as well. Now, those can be filtered by the parental controls, which we'll get to here in a bit. Now, let me give you a quick example of how a sub-account can work. We're going to sign into one here called HG Media, and when we set this one up for this video, we made it for an 8-year-old child. So we're going to go ahead and sign in, and we're going to go visit the PlayStation Store and see this filtering in action. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the PlayStation Store, it is essentially a digital storefront where you can purchase new games that are usually shorter or full-length games, downloadable content to add stuff to your game, such as new characters, new levels, etc., and you can use it to download movies, TV shows, and other things. Now, as you can see, we have some pretty family-friendly selections here on the home screen: the Angry Birds Trilogy, Sports Champions 2, Sound Shapes, and so on and so forth. Now, for some reason, Paranormal Activity is listed here, so let's click on that. And as you can see, we're kicked right back to the main menu, so we can't load that up. Other games such as Monster World, The Great Dinosaur Rescue, and so on and so forth are listed here. And if we go to, say, Games, and we're going to look at what's hot on the PS3, you can see we're limited to only games that are considered friendly for kids 8 and below, and that would be E and EC, according to the ESRB. You would have no E10 games in here. So let's show what this looks like if we are going to look at this in the master account setting, which is someone 18 and up. Sign into our master account, and you'll be able to tell if it's a master account with accounts linked to it because there will be a little arrow underneath it, as you just saw. So we're signed in, and let's head over to the PlayStation Store. Here we are, and now that the storefront is loading up, you're going to see a remarkable difference between the two. Yeah, there's a few more options here that weren't available previously. Batman, The Dark Knight Returns, the comic book, Taken 2, Disgaea, Hour of Darkness, and this time we'll be able to load up Paranormal Activity, I'll bet. Yep, there we go. And you can see the games have increased as well in maturity. Devil May Cry, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, the PlayStation 2 Classic. Oh, they call it a Classic. So that gives you an example of how the filtering works for sub-accounts. Also, let's show you how you can limit and enable those restrictions as well real quick before we move on to the parental controls proper. When you're logged into the master account, head over here to the PlayStation Network on the cross-media bar and go to Account Management. Once you've selected Account Management, it'll take a second to load up, and you can go to Sub-Account Management and go to Parental Control. Now, when you do that, you will have to enter your password again. Now, you will not see the handle, only the email address you used to sign up that account. So we're going to use Media, which is the 8-year-old one. Now, Chat. This will allow you to block any text or voice or video chat. Now, this will not block any messages and chat invitations. They can still be received, even if block is selected, so bear that in mind. Content restriction, if we turn this off, then the next time this person goes into the PlayStation Store, they'll see everything we just saw, including games like Grand Theft Auto and the Paranormal Activity movies. If you want to put them on a spending limit, you can also select that here. So these are things that you must have a password in order to change. So let's go ahead and back out of that. So that's the difference between master and sub-accounts. It's actually a pretty good system, and it's very similar again to what the Xbox 360 does. It doesn't have quite the comprehensive list, but it does have the core features, so that is a good thing. Now, we're going to go back over here to Settings, and we're going to go to Security Settings. This is where you adjust the actual parental controls. Now, keep in mind, this is universal, which means all users of this PlayStation 3 unit will have to abide by the controls you set up here. Change password is the first thing you should do. It says in your manual, but unless you sit down and read it, you're not going to know this, but the default password for the PlayStation 3 is 000. I highly recommend you change that as soon as possible to a code that only you will know, and please don't make it something like 1234. The first thing we're going to look at is parental control for BD or Blu-ray discs. Now, and anytime you make a change, you have to enter your password. Now, you can restrict or do not restrict the content. Now, when a Blu-ray disc is made by a studio, whether it be Universal, Disney, so on and so forth, they have the option of putting something called a PML on the disc. It's called a Parent Management Level. It is optional, and it is not on all discs, but we're going to turn it on anyway. You can select an age. The lower the age, the higher the restriction. The highest restriction is for age 0, with the highest being 254. We do not know too many 250-year-old people who sit around watching Blu-ray movies, but if they do, more power to them. So we're going to select 0 as the lowest. Now, to give you an example of how a Blu-ray will not have this restriction information encoded on it, we're going to go over here to video. Now, we've put disc 1 of the second season of AMC's The Walking Dead in here. Not because we particularly like it, but it is a great example of what should not be shown to possibly an 8-year-old. So we're going to try ahead and launch it. And if it had the parental management level information on it, it should have restricted it, and we should not be able to play it. Now, back over here to security settings. And next thing we're going to look at for DVD parental control. Again, enter your password to change the setting. And instead of selecting an age, you're given a level. Now, you should know that these levels were not set by Sony. They were set by the movie industry itself, level 1 through 8, with level 1 being the higher restriction. Now again, DVDs can be encoded with the PML, but they are not required to be. Now that we're done with that, let's go back to security settings, and we're going to look at the last one, parental control. This is specifically for video games, not anything else, so this will cover any disc you put into the system or any games you download off the PlayStation Network store. And again, the lower the level, the tighter restriction. Now this is where the PlayStation 3 shows the most confusing part of its parental control system. As you can see, there is, again, levels 1 through levels 11. Now, if you remember on our other videos, we showed you both the Wii and the Wii U, as well as the Xbox 360, allow you to filter directly by choosing an ESRB rating. The PlayStation 3 does not do that. Again, we're given a level system with a slightly wider field. Again, another good rule of thumb, and it's a guideline we've experimented with and read around on the web for. Level 1 is pretty much every game and a select few EC or early childhood games. Level 2 is pretty much games that are early childhood. Level 3 is for everyone or E. Level 4 is everyone 10 and up or E10. Levels 5, 6, 7, and 8 we've determined are good for teen games, although what the difference between 5, 6, 7, and 8 are we really don't know. Level 9 is M for mature, and levels 10 and 11 are for AO or adults only. Now, it should be noted that both Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony do not allow for AO games to be published on their consoles, whether it be a disc or whether it be a digital download, so you technically should not ever have to use levels 11 and 10. Now, we're going to go ahead and set this to level 5 right here in the middle. And you are also given an option where you can restrict starting a game that has no parental control settings. In other words, if it does not have an ESRB rating attached to it, it cannot be launched. So we're going to go ahead and select that. Now let's go back over here to our games list, and you'll notice there's the game icon is no longer there. Why? Because both the PS2 games we had here, Primal and I forget what the other one was, are blocked because they are of a high level. To view a game's level, select the game, hit the triangle button on your controller, and go down to Information. And you can see here it is Parental Control Level 9. And remember, we selected 5. Now, we put a Blu-ray disc in here of a specific game, and you'll notice we can't launch it. If we do try, it'll prompt us to enter a 4-digit password. You put in the 4-digit password, you can launch the game, so you can get around it that way. However, let's look at some information, and you'll see the game is a level 9. So to see what that game was, let's go back to security settings and turn all that off. And now you'll be able to see what we had in there, and that's Borderlands 2, which is an M game. And you'll see an information, the title, and the parental control level. Now, that is pretty much the limit of the parental controls on the PlayStation 3. There is one other worth mentioning, and that is Internet Browser Control, and that blocks you from being able to start browsing the web through the PlayStation 3's internal web browser. There is one other thing we do need to mention, and that is a glaring flaw in the parental controls that we could not duplicate on any of the other systems, and this one flaw is what's going to tell us to not recommend the PlayStation 3 at all for any family settings. Under the Settings tab on the XMB, if you go down to System Settings, there is an option towards the bottom called Restore Default Settings. This will pretty much take the PS3 back to its original state as when you just took it out of the box for the first time. It'll reset your video settings, your audio settings, and the security or parental control settings, meaning it will set your PIN back to 000 and turn all parental controls off. The only thing it will not affect is the sub-account controls such as chat, wallet, and content restriction on the PlayStation Store. However, it will allow you to bypass the parental controls for any game. So, for example, like take Borderlands 2 that we just experimented with. If you had a child or a user who knows how to dink around in computer settings, they could easily see that and reset the whole PS3 in just a matter of minutes and be playing whatever game they wanted. It is a glaring security flaw, and we're not sure why Sony overlooked that. However, with the PlayStation 4, or whatever it will be called, looming on the horizon at the next E3, we don't expect Sony to fix this in any future updates. We do hope that the PlayStation 4, when it does come out, will have that ability fixed and a more intelligent parental control system in place. However, when we looked at the PlayStation Vita and we did the parental controls on that, we saw a similar level system. So we're not holding out too much hope. Anyway, that is our review of the PlayStation 3's parental controls and our walkthrough. If you have any questions, check in the show description below, where you can link to our site for a complete written walkthrough of everything we just went through here. You'll also see links to Sony's support website and on how to contact them directly if you have any further questions about the PlayStation 3 and its parental controls. Thanks again for watching. This is John for Hungry Gamers, and check back later for more parental control settings and reviews for the latest games.